Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Jan from Jan Cook Wills and Trusts, and I've also got with me today Alison Daw, a lovely business friend of mine who runs Hello Friday, a virtual assistant business. And we want to talk to you today about the importance of having a will in place, but also the importance of people knowing where it is, how to find it when the time comes. Hi Alison, and thanks for helping out today in raising awareness around this issue.
No problem, Jan. Thank you for inviting me along. This is something I'm really passionate about. I'm really looking forward to trying to get your point of view across.
Really appreciate that. So I'm regularly talking about the importance of having a will in place, but really just as important is that your executors and your family know where to find it when the time comes. People go to extreme lengths to keep their wills safe, to the point that sometimes they never see the light of day again, which makes the whole process pretty pointless. Unfortunately, Alison sadly lost her father over the summer months, and she'd like to talk to us about her experience of dealing with her father's estate and the impact that that's had on her and her family. So Alison, is it okay for you to tell us what happened, what you've had to deal with over the last few months?
Yes, certainly. So yeah, unfortunately and very, very sadly, my dad passed away in July suddenly from heart failure. We didn't know there was anything wrong with him. He died watching his football with a kind of beer in his hand, so it's not a bad way to go.
I was going to say it's not a bad way to go, yeah.
No,
especially when you think of what's happened over the last few months.
Yeah. Exactly. But nonetheless, yeah, very sad. But over the year leading up to my dad's death, he had spoken to me and my brothers and sisters about the fact that he had made a will, and he went into quite a lot of detail about what was in there. The main thing being that he wanted my brother to solely inherit his house, as my brother lives with him, which it was no problem. He told me that he'd made my sister the executor of the will. Again, no problem. That's great.
Yes. It's not always an honour to be an executor.
No. But he never said where it was, who he did it with, anything like that. He just told us that it was done. Unfortunately, when he passed suddenly, we looked for the will in his house, but we couldn't find it. We looked everywhere. I called all the solicitors in his town, but couldn't find it. Called sorry, that's quite a hard word to say together. The will makers, and again, no joy. Called the probate office. They're actually not taking any calls at the moment, and then they send an email back saying, don't email us. They literally don't want to be contacted at the moment. Okay. Like, yeah. So I spent almost 2 months looking for it. Asked lots of people advice where they think I should look and everything like that, but just can't find it anywhere. So now we've had to go down the route of my dad dying intestate, and that brings with it quite a lot of expense and quite a lot of work as well. My family. Sorry.
And the fact that your dad's wishes are probably not going to be followed necessarily. Yeah.
I mean, my brothers and sisters have all agreed to follow what he did want, which is, for people that don't know, if somebody dies intestate, you're meant to split everything equally between. If there's no spouse, which there wasn't in my dad's case, it has to be split equally between the children. That's the first step. But like my dad wanted my brother to have that house, and that is my brother's house. He lives there. He's always lived there. So we have to do, I think it's called a deed of amendment. Is that sound right?
Deed of assignment.
Deed of assignment. Yeah. So it's like a variation of the will, and that costs around £1,500 plus VAT, and you have to have all of your siblings' authority to do that. You have to all agree. Luckily, we all do so that's okay. But we have to find a solicitor to do that for us.
Mm.
And also, so my family decided they wanted me to administer my dad's estate. So it's a bit like, it's almost the same as when you have to apply for probate when you're the executor. You have to value the estate, but the problem when you're not the executor, the organisations that you want to speak to, they won't give you any information. So it's kind of like you go around in circles trying to, value the estate to apply for probate, but you can only kind of make guesses. Whereas if the will was there, I would have, my sister would be the executor, and she would have, be able to get more information. But also because we couldn't find the will, I don't know exactly what my dad had either, and where anything is.
Yeah.
So I had to go through all of his bank statements, looking for clues of where things are, where his pensions are, and things like that. And nobody wants to do that. It's really horrible. It took me a long time to be able to.
And it's the first thing when you do go seeking this information, the first thing that people ask is there a will? Have you got a copy of the will? And as soon as you say no, it just really overly complicates the whole thing.
Yeah, they just kind of shut down on you, and they say, well, you need to get letters of administration, and you need to grant a probate before we can tell you anything. So I've done quite a lot of research on this now, so I know it quite well. So I decided that I would apply for the letters of administration myself, so I'd administer an estate myself. But one of the reasons, that's not the only reason I did it. The other reason is because when I have spoken to potential solicitors to look after, looking at the estate, valuing the estate and administrating the estate for us, because my dad died intestate, they have to make sure that there isn't any illegitimate children out there.
Yes.
And they say their first search is free, but if it brings up anything, even just an inclination, it might turn into nothing. But then there's no limit, there's no cap on how much that's going to cost.
Right. And I'm sure they'll spin it out for as long as they can and make it as complicated as possible.
Yeah, I think so, and because they use like a third party, so although the solicitor might be, you just don't know, do you?
Yeah.
And just having that uncapped kind of not knowing how much that's going to be when you're looking after an estate for somebody, for all of your family, it's just like, oh God, how do you? I just couldn't do that.
Yeah, you feel responsible, don't you, for protecting the estate as much as you can for your siblings.
Yeah, I do. And just like everybody else out there, my dad worked so hard. He worked all of his life for, what he had, and you just don't want to
waste it.
No, you just want to protect it as much as possible. Yeah. So everyone out there, I would just say my message is, have the difficult conversation with your loved ones, and just make sure you know where that will is.
Yeah.
Because it will save you a lot of heartache.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, you can't stress it enough, and it's just such a shame that you've had to kind of live through that and had to deal with it. But I really appreciate you kind of agreeing to come on and talk about that this morning. Hopefully it will prevent some people, maybe several people, having to go through the same thing. And there is just one other point that I would like to raise here, is that there is something called Certainty, which is a national will register, where people can register the fact that they've made a will, so it's logged that you do have a will, and where that will can be found, where if it's held with a solicitor practice or whatever. The trouble is with that is that not many people know of its existence. So again, that message needs to, get out there, that one of your first ports of call could be to search on the National Will Register. But again, it probably wouldn't have helped, because your dad maybe didn't know that it was there, and if the solicitor company that he made his will through didn't use that service, then they wouldn't necessarily have registered it either. But it is something that people can maybe aim towards doing that might help.
Yeah, no, I agree. I did think about looking there, but I just, because I couldn't find it with any of the
Yeah.
solicitors, I kind of come to the conclusion that he did kind of, you know, like a W.H. Smith kind of will or
Right.
something like that,
Okay. Yeah.
rather than going down, you know, like a professional service route. I think that's maybe what he did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is certainty something that you mention when you create wills for people? Or?
I do, when people are asking about who keeps the will, you know,
Mm-hmm.
do they keep it themselves, or the company that I work through, Countrywide, we do offer a storage option for people, but there is an annual fee. It's not a lot, a small annual fee, and they will keep the original there. But again, even that's about making sure that your family, that your executor knows that that company is the one that has it. Otherwise, how do they know to then go and approach them to ask for the will? But I also do tell them that, you know, they can register it with certainty. I have actually thought about, and it's maybe something I need to think about a bit more, about offering that as a service, that I just automatically register
Mm-hmm.
clients with certainty.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
idea.
it's something to think about. It's another add-on, isn't it, to
Yeah,
what you offer your clients, giving them the best possible service that you can.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
Okay, right. Well, thank you. I'm sure it hasn't been easy talking about that this morning, but I really appreciate it, and I hope that, you know, many other people that get to see the video appreciate it as well. So
Yeah,
thanks very much, Alison.
you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jan.